commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting. Commissioner Telfer is excused, and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Chair Safoff?
Here? Oh, I'm sorry. I think that was it. Thank you. Okay. Will the clerk please inform the commission of who else is in the meeting so we all have an understanding?
Yes, we have Joe Stivital from the IT Service Desk, Director Pack, Chris Scaro, Farshad Aladati, Janelle Simmons, Kathy Ortega, Mike Wells, Tina Erickson, and Nate Carter from DOJ.
Thanks, Elisa. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of written comments that were received were provided to the commission in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk please read any public comments that we received?
Yes, honorable commissioners, Director Pack, and Oregon Lottery team. Clearly, the Oregon Lottery is an expert at brick and mortar gambling. Your omnipresent video lottery slot machines have been highly lucrative since your retailer venues reopened. As someone who works with people who experience problem gambling, I can assure you that that many people lost their entire stimulus checks and unemployment back payment checks, some in the amounts of over $10,000 in one sitting, into your machines. They are so dangerously tempting to use as an escape from the current stressors in our world. I remain deeply concerned that you have the intention to offer online high transactive velocity games. You have not acknowledged the empirically documented increased potential for harm to Oregonians that this would cause. It has not been my impression that this commission is ethically rudderless, but being put in the position to make difficult choices to maximize revenue without deliberately exploiting vulnerable individuals like myself. For example, your social media algorithms have me nailed. As a person who thinks about, writes, and talks about gambling a lot, your Oregon Lottery digital ads are always front and center in my feeds. It gets me thinking about the impact that targeted advertising currently has and will have on other vulnerable Oregonians. Please join me in educating ourselves about how extremely addictive online gambling would be. Jamie Salzberg, host of the After Gambling podcast, recently read a list from a woman in early problem gambling recovery named Melanie about the differences between brick and mortar gambling and online gambling. Some of the takeaways from this list include: online gambling is an accelerant of harm. Vulnerable people's gambling behavior can accelerate at a faster rate, and it's easy to bet larger amounts than at brick and mortar venues. Most people have very convenient access to phones. Combined with cashless transactions and credit, that's a formidable combination. Digital access is an accelerant to harm. Online gambling has low overhead compared to brick and mortar, enabling online marketeers to offer a multitude of large, luring bonuses. Digital gambling is usually done alone in isolation, and that impacts our tendency to make good decisions. These and several other relevant points resonated with me, and I'd encourage you to listen to the whole podcast to help you make future decisions on which side of history you want to be on. Thank you, Kitty Martz, concerned Oregonian in long-term recovery from Oregon Lottery video lottery terminals. A link to the podcast is posted on the commission meeting webpage with Ms. Martz's public comment. And Chair Safoff, that was the only comment that we received.
Great. Thank you, Lisa, and thanks for reading that into the record. With that, I think we'll move to Commissioner Communications. And I believe we're going to have a report from Commissioner Patel on the Audit Committee. And Barry, do you want Commissioner Patel to do that first and then go to your report, I think? We'll do it that way.
Yes, please.
Great. Maureen?
Thank you. So during the audit committee that we just met prior to this, the lottery meeting, the internal audit team presented the results of two recently completed audit engagements. The first one was a cybersecurity risk assessment, and it was based on the Center for Internet Security Foundational Controls. The objective of that risk assessment was to identify and analyze the lottery's control activities that are deployed to prevent, detect, and manage cyber risk, including the identification of the most significant and impactful cybersecurity risks to the lottery and existing controls in place to mitigate the risks. The results found that overall the lottery has incorporated many sound practices and security controls deemed necessary for an enterprise like the lottery with an established cybersecurity program. One thing to note was that the lottery continues to move towards implementing its IT service management. Some of the lower risk items could be mitigated further. And this is part of moving towards implementing the strategic initiatives that the lottery is embarking upon. The second completed audit engagement was more of a consultative review of potential financial viability criteria for evaluating retailer contract applications. One thing to note with this was that the retail application process is very thorough. And this consultation was done to discover areas of concern during the application process to enhance the long-term viability of the expense that's currently incurred by the lottery to place VLT. The results of that, the internal audit did provide insights and clarity to help develop potential future strategic and operational policy changes. Lottery staff's going to take this information and these recommendations to continue its process improvement to help drive better results for the lottery. We did have an update on the results of management actions and of open audit recommendations, and most of those are on schedule. We did review the current audit engagements as well and received a progress and status report on the completion of the calendar year 2020 audit plan, and those are on pace to be completed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Are there any questions or comments for Marlene regarding the audit committee report? Hearing none, I might, before we move to the director's report, just ask if there are any other comments or questions that the commission would like to use this time to mention. Anything from anyone else on the commission? I know we're going to hear more, but I just did want to say I continue to be impressed with how the lottery is managing both the COVID situations, the social unrest, and even recently more upsetting, the wildfires. I feel as though as a commissioner that you're keeping us informed, you're keeping us, you're being very transparent, and I do really appreciate how the lottery's been managing through this year. So with that, I'll turn to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Safoff. I think our common slogan these days is #BringOn2021. We're all a little bit tired of this year.
I hear that.
I'll start with a little lottery news. As you mentioned, in terms of monitoring our reopening, the wildfires that ravaged Oregon this month also took a toll on many of our retailers, and in some places, the fiber optic network we use. Lottery proactively monitors our gaming network circuits and quickly identified earlier this week there were 95 retailers in the Portland area and 25 retailers along the North Coast that were impacted by fire-damaged fiber optic lines. The damage occurred under a bridge and proved challenging for the vendor repair crews to assess and fix. We were in constant contact with CenturyLink on the progress of repairs, and I'm happy to report that as of this morning, we only had 19 retailers in Portland still waiting for a reestablished connection. We've dedicated 2 field service representatives to engage with retailers in fire-affected areas Both FSRs have been reaching out to share updates with the affected retailers. Our primary goals are to help retailers reopen as soon as possible, secure lottery equipment in retailers who cannot reopen, and identify any equipment lost in the fires. A team is working on debris removal plans once it is safe to enter the fire-affected areas. Sales update for the month. Overall lottery sales continue to perform well given our challenges. As of this month, we're running about 6% behind last year. Video lottery continues to hover about 10% below prior year's performance, but this past week saw it nearly reach 95% of revenue for the same week last year. It was our best week since the mid-March COVID-19 response measures became effective. On the jackpot game front, the lack of large prize rolls is keeping sales down. Scratchits continued as a bright spot this month, outpacing last year by nearly 25%. And fun fact, just this month, we have awarded $1.1 million in Scratchit prizes of $1,000 or more. August proved to be a good month for Scoreboard, with players wagering nearly $26 million on an increasing number of available sports. NBA games proved to be the most popular events, with players wagering nearly $14 million. So far this month, the Seahawks game last week was the most popular event, with over 8,500 players making over 11,000 wagers, totaling nearly $400,000. It was a great bet for the players, not so much for lottery, as players won nearly $500,000. The US Open was also very popular, with almost 11,000 bets across nearly 3,000 players. Couple of winner stories today. Shelly Arnold of Bend won a $1 million Powerball. When Shelly Arnold realized she had won $1 million playing Powerball, no one could see how happy she was. She was at Safeway and was wearing her mask. Not only did Arnold use the self-serve lottery ticket scanner, she also had the clerk scan it, and she checked the numbers again at home. Quote, "The funny part is that I had that ticket just lying in my purse for weeks," she said. "I didn't even realize I had a $1 million ticket sitting in there." Arnold purchased her Quick Pick Powerball ticket at the Safeway on Century Way in Bend when she was getting groceries. She said she was a longtime Powerball player, winning $4 here and there, but not thinking she would ever win a big jackpot. Craig Savory of Portland loves to play bingo and crossword scratchits, and he loves them even more after winning $100,000 playing Coliseum crossword. Craig said what drew him to the games when he visited his local 7-Eleven store was that he likes puzzles. That's why he normally purchases bingo and crossword games. Quote, "They are fun, and I enjoy the gameplay," he said. Craig said he was going to use his winnings on a conversion van and hit the road. Finally today, as you know, Farshad Al-Awdadi and I have agreed that he'll be leaving the lottery to pursue other opportunities, and this is his last commission meeting with us. Farshad has led gaming operations through some significant change and growth, and he's accomplished a great deal in the last 4 years, including paving the way pre-pandemic to have our hotline work remotely, establishing a dedicated technical services team, working to more efficiently manage equipment and the retail channel, moving the product teams from gaming operations to the corporate affairs office to achieve better alignment in both groups, pushing me to think big and take risks with things like selling Powerball to an international market. And finally, Farshad has been a strong supporter of his team, providing professional and career development opportunities and promoting collaboration. I want to thank him for his passionate support of the lottery and our mission, and I wish him all the best. That concludes my report for today, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Farshad, I know you're on today, and I wanted to add my thanks to you for the contributions you've made and your ongoing dedication to the lottery. I just wanted you to know I've so appreciated your briefings and updates to the commission, as well as me at times when I've had questions of you, your thoughts and your perspective as we built our strategic plan. Your contributions to the strategic plan are noticeable, are still noticeable. I also really enjoyed getting to know you more during some of the retreats that we've had in the last few years and the work sessions. And I just wanted you to know on behalf of the commission that we wish you the best in your next step in your career. So thank you very much. With that, I think we will move to the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on August 28th, 2020 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Let's go to the financial report, and I believe that Kathy Ortega is on.
Yes, I am.
Great.
Good morning, Chair Southouth, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery. And I have for you today the financial review for the second month of our fiscal year, which is August of 2020. If you would please move in your materials to the monthly operating statement for the month. We had $85.4 million of revenue on the June forecast, which was our budget, 58.3 million or $27.1 million variance. Next month, when we do the financial statements, we will be pulling in the updated September forecast that was just recently released. So the degree of these variances is going to change somewhat when we pull those new forecast numbers in. Whenever you see a $27 million favorable variance to budget, you're going to have a commission variance, which no one could complain about because we have so much more revenue. And that variance was $10.3 million. A slight variance in advertising, which just represents timing and placement of various advertising efforts against a budget that was spread out over the year. And for the month, we had a net profit of $49.7 million on a budget of 31.4, or 18.4 million favorable for the month. Looking at the next schedule, it is the schedule for the 2 months ended August 31st of our fiscal year 2021. Net revenue of 170.9 million on a budget of 114, almost 115 million was $56 million favorable. And the comments that I made on the monthly statement apply to the variances that you're seeing the year-to-date, with the exception that advertising is positive on a year-to-date basis. Net profit of 103.7 on a budget of 61, almost 62 million is 41.7 million favorable. And on the schedule of services and supplies, we have some slight timing differences for the month and the year-to-date. And then I also have the balance sheet for you there today. And also, just for the record, in the detailed financial statements that you were provided this month, I've given you additional information on the project expenses that we are paying for out of the reserve. And just for the record, I'm flipping to that schedule as fast as I can. That spending, we had an original budget of 27.9 million. We spent 459,000 for the first 2 months, with a remaining budget of 27.4 million. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have on the financial report.
Questions or comments for the commission? Kathy, I have just a couple. And I may work backwards from what the project report, the project activity report, that's on target. I mean, it's just the expenditure so far is just for 2 months. So there's nothing here that it probably too early to even tell that looks like it's getting behind it all.
Oh, absolutely. Right? That's a
Yeah.
full year's budget, and we
Right.
went on the spending of 2 months.
Right. On both the monthly and the year to date, the sales support and the game equipment parts maintenance are significantly behind. Is that COVID or is that COVID plus timing? What's driving that?
Remember, as you recall, when we did the budget this year, we did a top-down budget, and then we took that top-down budget and spread it out over 12 months.
Oh, that's right.
So it really is, there is nothing alarming here. It really is a representation of more a budget number that is maybe not as on point as we would have on a month-to-month basis.
Thanks. That's a good reminder. Okay. That's all I had. And hearing nothing from any of the other commissioners, is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statement?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended August 31st, 2020 be approved for the record as presented today.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so Director Pack and Tina Erickson, should we move to the major procurement?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, we bring major procurement items to the Commission for approval. This is an informational meeting today. We will ask for your formal approval next month. And Tina, you want to take it away and explain the request?
Yes. For the record, well, actually, let me start back over by saying good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, and Director Pack. For the record, this is Tina Erickson. I am the Lottery Product Portfolio Manager of the Oregon Lottery. So this major procurement is really based on a need that we are going to be having in February. We currently have a contract with IGT to provide services for our second chance drawings, and of the third-party vendors that participate in that agreement are iMarks and Shrek Solutions, as well as Aristotle. And what we've decided to do is work with iMarks, because we've had a long history, almost 10 years of working with them, and they provide the second chance entry files, and they also notify winners. And what we've decided is, or would like to decide to do, is go into an agreement with them to provide those services, as well as some reporting services that we have need of. We'll also be taking over some of the customer service side of the house and bring that internally. And we're doing this really to be more cost effective, and it's a good use of our resources and time as well. We currently have customer service that's being represented out of house, and IGT is providing that. So it's not necessarily within the state. And we already have our hotline staff who have been interacting with customers, and we just feel that that's a good extension to work with our customers there. So I'm not sure if you have any questions. All right.
Questions or comments? I'm sorry, I was muted, Tina.
Oh,
That's questions or comments from the commission. Hearing none. And Tina, I just wanted a clarification. So you're bringing a service from IGT in.
Yes.
But you're sending additional ones out to iMark, I guess it is.
Yes.
But there's still going to be some cost of efficiencies. We'll reduce some costs.
Yes.
Great.
So right now, the current agreement that we have with IGT is got technical services, and we're reducing. It also includes the customer service side of the house. So we'll be taking that on. So it will be reducing costs for us.
But not, it's not offset by the additional you're sending out to
No,
the,
no.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, great, thanks.
sure.
And I think with that, we will move to rulemaking. And I know, Chris, you're on, is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sathoff. Commissioners, Director Pack, for the record, my name is Chris Scaro. I'm the Rules and Policy Analyst for the lottery. So we've got two quick rulemaking updates for you today on your agenda. The first rulemaking is one we discussed at the May Commission meeting, which of course feels like a very long time ago. So to refresh your memory, you'll recall in early May, all of our terminals were disabled, but counties could start the application process for approval to enter phase 1 of reopening, which would permit a return to on-site dining and VLT operations within public health guidelines issued by the Oregon Health Authority. So in response to that announcement, the lottery, we assumed some of our retailers would be in counties that were approved. So we adopted a temporary rule that would explain to our retailers and the public how lottery would handle re-enabling terminals in those counties that were approved. So the rule, which is OAR 177040049, is a fairly simple rule. It just states that the lottery and our retailers will adhere to official guidance about the safe operation of VLTs during the various phases of reopening. The rule commits the lottery to provide information and technical support to our retailers, and the rule explains how lottery will handle reports of non-compliance. So as you know, temporary rules have an automatic expiration after 6 months. So this rule is scheduled to expire in early November. And I think for me, back in May, I didn't know if we would need the rule beyond November, and unfortunately it seems like we will need it beyond the automatic expiration. So therefore the lottery has started the permanent rulemaking process by filing a notice and requesting comment on the rule. So after that comment period closes, I will report back next October at the next commission meeting and ask you to consider permanent adoption of the rule. So this allows us to keep the rule beyond the automatic expiration. And then I think the plan would be that I would come back and ask you to repeal the rule when we're out of the current public health state of emergency. So there's all the information about the rulemakings in the meeting materials today. So if our audience has comment, they can refer to the meeting materials.
Chris, I know that you indicated that you would likely repeal this, so we adopt permanently, maybe a repeal.
Right.
Even though this is really specific to COVID, it might be something that the lottery wants to think about. Is there a rule, a permanent rule needed, or in the context of sort of a generic safety, health of that nature? I'm sure you guys are all going to be thinking about that. So.
Yeah, Chair, that is a good point, and we may. Yeah, because this rule is specific to the March declaration of a state of emergency, so we could keep it and just cover ourselves for future emergencies. That's something we could think about. That's a good point.
Thanks.
And
yeah,
then,
Madam Chair, sorry, Chris, this is Barry. I think it's difficult to think about what a rule would look like that could encompass the broad spectrum of potential emergencies that we could declare. So
Right.
a Cascadia event is different from a wildfire, is different from a pandemic, is different from a drought. So I think it's our disaster recovery and business continuity plans, which we talked about a little bit during the audit committee meeting, is really where that governance lies. And I think we would probably take a similar approach. I think we have room for plenty of discussion around this, but I think we would see a similar approach where we would enact temporary rules to manage a specific set of circumstances.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, no, you might be right. I was thinking more in terms of sort of generic, high level. I mean, if the state declares an emergency, right? I mean, that's one high level criteria. If but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
think about it. I don't know that it makes sense either, but thanks. Okay,
Thank
Chris, do you want to do our second chance rule? Talk about a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. So the other rulemaking follows on Tina's presentation. We're doing some expansion and modernizing of our second chance promotion, and we wanted to take the opportunity to clean up the rules just a little bit. So you can see we've proposed to tighten up the eligibility and entry requirements. And just so folks know, we're actually not changing. So the rule changes don't really change the world for our current players who are playing second chance. They just bring the rules in line with the current offering. So it's mostly just cleanup, but we would like to open those for public comment. Again, the proposed rules are in the meeting materials, so we'd like to take comment on that, and then I'll come back later in the year. I think this was scheduled to come back to you in November, and you can consider permanently adopting these rules so that our second chance rules match our modern offering. And so that's all I've got on the rulemaking front. Happy to answer questions about that, and just wanted to say again that comment on both of these rules is open. So if people are interested, it's in the materials.
Thanks, Chris. Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, let's move to staff updates. And I think we're back with Tina.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning again, Commissioners and Director Pack. For the record, my name is Tina Erickson, Lottery Product Portfolio Manager here at the Oregon Lottery. Today, I'm going to just go through a simple slide deck. I'm hoping that everyone can see this presentation.
It's on my screen.
Perfect. So I wanted to update today just where we are with the Aurora and equipment deployment. And just a reminder, this is the what we would call the traditional system that we are replacing and upgrading to IGT's Aurora system. And we also, part of that includes all new equipment. So we've got retailer equipment that clerks are actually doing wagers from, and validations happen up to $600. And then we've got new player operated kiosk terminals that are also going to be deployed. On this high level schedule, I just really wanted to highlight a couple of areas. One is Walmart. We've got Walmart deployments that are going to start on Monday. Walmart is new lottery retailer to us. These are going to be deployed at their super centers throughout the state, which is 34 locations. The other area that I would like to highlight is our go live date. So Aurora, for the actual system, will be going live in March. This next slide really is twofold. I wanted to talk about how our statewide installations are going, and we've got 5 teams that are going out and installing the new retailer equipment. And this map is really showing areas within the state that installs have happened. The yellow represents retailers that have had the new equipment for about 35 days. The red, is 21 days. And then the light blue area is going to be about 7 days. The other thing that I wanted to just share is the impact to the wildfires. So right now, we have officially received termination for 3 retailers, and we have 3 that are requesting an abeyance, so that way they have the opportunity to go back and either rebuild or clean up damage, etc. And so this is a combination of both what we consider traditional lottery retailers as well as our video lottery retailers. Some of the highlights or the key takeaways here, the 5 cities that are listed were the ones that have the greatest lottery retailer count, and just wanted to highlight those. They make up 46 accounts that were impacted. And looking back at FY20, these cities represent 1% of lottery revenue, which comparing, using FY20 amounts, it's about $11.9 million in revenue.
Just said, maybe this is a stupid question, Tina, but in those, obviously there's, it's very unfortunate. There's not a huge number here that have been impacted by the wildfires. We don't want any impacted, but when an entity, so what happens to our equipment? It is the equipment gone or is it just damaged? And if it's gone and or damaged, do we insure our equipment? Does anybody there help me out with that a little bit?
So I asked this question of Tessa, our contracts manager. And so right now it would be the insurance that the retail location has. The equipment would be insured under that. I think we're still working through some details on that because, again, we haven't ever experienced this. I do know that we've got other equipment that we can go back and install as they come back online. I don't know if anyone else that's maybe in the commission meeting might have more information.
Kathy, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah. Yes. Commissioners, Chair Sathoff, to the extent that any equipment is damaged and we don't receive proceeds from the retailer, we do have insurance through the state that would kick in. And we do have a deductible of $2,500 per unit on that. So between the two coverages, we should, mitigate most any fire loss. And we do have other fire losses that were not related to this one event. Occasionally there are fires and our equipment is damaged. So it's part of a normal process that we go through.
Okay. But the retailer insurance doesn't have us as a beneficiary or a third party on that. Okay. Just in our contracts.
Not in our contracts, no.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, I would just add that this is what we know today. It's still not safe to go into these fire affected areas. So I anticipate that these numbers will go up. We're just trying to give our retailers space in this tragedy to figure out how they're putting their lives back together, and whether or not lottery has a place with that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we're doing that. I just was curious in terms of the financial impact on us if the numbers do go up, and even, I hate that we even have a few, but understood. Thanks, Barry.
This is Commissioner Wilcox. I have a quick question on the last slide.
Yes.
Do you know how many VLTs were actually in those 46 accounts? And then secondly, I'm kind of surprised to see that there weren't any lottery places of business in talent.
To answer your first question, I would have to go back and get the data on the VLTs. And on talent, we didn't see, or I wasn't seeing that currently, but we can follow up on that as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this last slide is just really kind of wanting to share with you where we are in terms of the rollout. So we did have some software challenges as we've been going through this. And it created some delays in our schedule along with COVID. And so the schedule that I shared on the first slide is the new schedule, which we're hoping, and I feel pretty confident, as long as nothing else pops up, that we will be able to meet the delivery of that March 7th date to go live. The good thing about doing more of this slow rollout was the ability to get retailer feedback. We do a lot of testing, but sometimes the user testing is very different in the real world. And so based on that, we were able to make some software changes and improvements for the retailer. The Game Touches, which are these two pieces of equipment that I have here on this slide, we did delay the installation of these because there was a couple of defects that we encountered for customer facing issues. And really up until yesterday, the deployment of these was going to be pushed out another week. So it was good that we were able to get those resolved, and deployments are starting on Monday. So right now there are no expected delays with getting Aurora deployed or getting this equipment deployed before the Thanksgiving holiday. And that is all that I have for today. Are there any other questions?
Thanks, Tina. Questions
Tina.
or comments from the commission? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just thank you, Madam Chair. Tina, just to clarify, this equipment, part of the reason we're finding software defects and customer improvements is these are brand new pieces of equipment, right? And some of the functionality is we're deploying for the first time in the country. Is that correct?
Yes, there have been a couple of other jurisdictions, but the way that we are asking, and especially on the smaller retailer equipment, those are being deployed the first time for us. So yes. So it will be exciting to see this new equipment out there starting next week.
And Tina, we have a regular process for gathering, in addition to the testing we've done, as we go forward with something new like this. Do we have a way to kind of keep gathering feedback in addition to whether or not they're actually getting played, just to gather feedback from our retailers about how it's going?
Yes,
Great.
we have a lot of analytics that we are using, and the nice thing is that our analytics and insights team has been able to capture a lot of this information, so along with the field folks. So yes.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks. With that, I think our last item on the agenda is any other business. I'm just open this up for the commission and for anyone to identify if there's other business they'd like to raise at this time. Okay, hearing none. This concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on October 23rd. Thank you all for attending the meeting, and this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to hear from all of you. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. Bye-bye.
Hi, Marty.